things. But, I tell everybody, every room I walk into as a Black woman. And I walk into a Black woman who trusts God. And that's going to be something that never changes, as long as God blesses me here on this earth, right? That's going to be, that's a factor that will never change. I will always be walking into rooms as that. So I think it's really important, because you talk about earlier the lows. Yeah. When I do go to my lows, I have to talk to him. And I do have lows. I know social media probably makes it seem like folks don't have lows, but everybody has.
You'll never have a problem. I don't think so.
I'm smiling, but like there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. There's been sleepless nights. There's been opportunities lost. There's been jobs lost, right? Yeah. But I know it's going to be a bigger plan. But again, trust in him.
22 Live streaming.
Found themselves down by 1. Butler thinks the key to winning the game today, and a 10-point win last week in Philadelphia.
Manager Mr. David Griffin. David, how are you tonight?
And I look forward to covering all the teams.
Hey everyone, it's Kelsey Nicole Nelson.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
It's been a minute.
We've both been grinding.
Listen, first of all, congratulations. You were 24 when I first met you.
This is Kelsey Nelson, and you're listening to Studio22Live.tv. But third grade is when they start to look at kids and when they start building jails and things like that. That's a problem.
That's right.
And absolutely. I'm a person that, there's a lot of organizations and stuff like that, but I'm a doer. I'm a believer. So, I've worked with a lot of different groups and stuff like that. But when I see something, I wanted to start something that really spoke to something that, was passionate to me and something that I could help with and see the results and get people to help.
That is so huge. So I applaud your efforts. Just got a vision as you was talking that is really going to take you way beyond anything you can think of, because a lot of people wait till they're filthy rich to give back because it's a nice tax write-off. But this is something that's a really, really good, a really huge problem that you've identified now. And now you're actually taking action. So I applaud you for that. And I can tell the passion for you with the kids. And that's going to return to you big time.
And I appreciate that, because obviously, right, I'm in college and I could have waited, like you said, but I want to do it now. Am I rich? No. But honestly, it just takes really a commitment to start something. And anything I can do, obviously, it's important to me. And it's honestly great that I got to start in college and get to continue. And I've truly been blessed and hope I can bless them.
I'm not the journey. Like, I wish I was 24 again.
What do you miss about that? Over the last 10 years, what's your biggest aha moment? If you could talk to your 24-year-old self back then today, what would that be?
That's a good question. I think for me, I tell my 24-year-old self, I was always so anxious, right? Because anybody that knows me knows how hard I work, how hard I grind. And there were so many times that it felt like sometimes the impossible would stay impossible and that would never be possible. So I think I would just say, keep consistent and keep on the journey. There's a lot of time people don't see this, right? They see all my glory, but there was a lot of downtimes. There were times, I'd have to go in my little space, do our little woosah, honestly shed a tear sometimes. And I would just tell myself, just keep going and you're going to be noticed. I think that's the biggest. Patience is the hardest thing. But it's because you don't know, right? You don't know the unknown. But knowing what I know now, it's just doing things consistently, doing things right, doing things in a high quality way. It's going to turn out okay.
I hope you were in good hands as far as me setting up.
Always. And that's the thing. I've been surrounded by amazing people who have, seen the journey, know the story. And that's the other thing. Surround yourself with the people who genuinely care about you.
That's so good. Kelsey Nicole Nelson, thank you for joining Studio 22 Live. It was TV when I first got started, and you were on one of our first episodes. Was it your first interview or no?
No, that's, it's so crazy. So people don't know this probably, but I've been interviewing, I've been hosting an MC since honestly, since high school.
No way. Okay. Gotcha. So you already,
but I was still thankful and grateful for the opportunity. Okay.
I was the new guy.
at that time. Wow. So you already been doing. What made you want to get into media, period? Did it start in high school?
Oh my God. I think for me, honestly, it started early. So like kind of like how everyone calls me KNN. Since I was a kid, people would call me that because again, it was a play off of CNN. And like everyone would always say Kelsey's going to be her own media network. I always loved telling stories. I was the one that could retain all the information and share it out, to everyone else. But media was always powerful to me. Like I remember like running home and like, I never forget when I asked my parents, like, wait, how many people are they broadcasting to right now? And they're like, millions. I'm like, millions of people are seeing that person. And I've always been like just enthralled with power, like just having that. Like I'm a person like that loves being a leader. I don't shy away from it, right? I understand that leadership isn't for everyone, but like just to know the power of your words. And Mike, I've always been a reader. I've always been a writer. Like I'm the kid that loved when we had the long essay assignments. Used to love reading those thick, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter books. Like that has been me. And then like media, I'm a communicator just naturally. So media always appealed to me, and especially sports media, because I think sports touches everything. And when you think about sports impact and role and history and society, like it's had such an important, such an important role. So I think for me, it's just always, honestly, I think it's my calling. Like that's kind of always been what it's been. It's always been the main thing. And for me now, it's just been chasing, keeping the main thing.
So when you were in high school, I'm going to bring you back a little bit. And you said this was
just a little bit. I'm not that old, Fred. We're just going back a little bit.
Let me tell you why I say that, because I had to get dressed. I told my wife, I said, honey, I got to make sure I got to put something on something new, because I'm talking to a sports person. Like I make sure I represent. So how big was it for the support from your parents? Talk about them for a little bit.
Oh my gosh, my parents are still my rock. Like they were I was calling my American University basketball game when they played Howard, and my parents were there, my little sister.
Nice.
My parents, like they're everything. I think I learned work ethic from them. For people that know my story, like I went to a bunch of different daycares and camps as a kid. My parents were always going to make sure I was engaged in doing something. So, and I was always the first one dropped off because they had to go to work and they were not going to miss work. And I was always the last one picked up, right? But obviously I knew they were coming, but also, from them doing that again, like I was put in situations and instances, where I, again, had to learn how to be a leader quickly. When you're the first kid there, you automatically get pulled into being the help, right?
Yeah.
Helping everybody else. So I think it was that. And then my parents, every honor roll assembly, like every game, my dad or my mom were there or sometimes together. And that meant something, having that support. I think the biggest thing I learned from my parents is like they weren't going to have me fail. Like you weren't going to be up in that Nelson household and not doing nothing with your life.
Not doing nothing.
Having no ambition and no dreams. And then even in my house, like all I had, I remember You People's Network, UPN, like I was always watching Black shows, Black greatness. All we had in the house was Black artwork, Black paintings. I had only ever seen, Black Jesus. Like that's all.
Yes, right.
Only had Black Barbies, right? So like that's that's what I saw. So like for me, Black excellence, it wasn't standard. My dad went to a HBCU. I knew about all the HBCU grades. Like again, the threshold was excellence for me.
Excellence,
And that's what I think my parents, instilled in me. And they also told me, if you want something, work hard for it. Like they weren't just going to give me something. I worked for it. And they, when I needed money, I got a job. I've always held multiple jobs. They helped me, my dad would show me the ride-on schedule. This is how you get there. That's how you take the bus there. This is the train. This is where you get off the metro, and this is where you walk to. And, sometimes if they could, they would drop me off. And then I think that's what I learned from them. It's just that kind of that work ethic that you need to succeed.
It sounds like Dad taught you how to change a tire or two.
Oh my gosh, yes. Look, especially when you're the eldest girl.
You're right. You're the oldest, you better, right? Exactly.
You learn it all, but I'm thankful, right? Like, I'm able to be self-sufficient, and that's important, especially since I do so much, You got to learn how to do it. And I'm so thankful for that. And that's I think the other thing about my dad that I appreciate, though obviously I'm not a man like my dad, when we talk sports knowledge and history, I never felt like a female talking to him, if that makes sense. I'd always just like an equal, right? My dad's honestly probably the biggest sports historian I know. Like he knows so much information on sports. Anybody that knows my dad knows, like I'm telling you, knows exactly what I'm saying, where I'm coming from.
Right.
I think that was important too. There was nothing again that I couldn't do if I didn't put my mind to it and put the work in.
So the sports thing, you got it from dad, right?
Only say that, yeah. But my mom did play tennis back in the day too. So give my mom her props.
All right. So did that. So you always were around it. So it seems like to be so natural. I've been watching you over the years, and I've been seeing that when you start talking about sports, not only do you know the people, the stats, I mean everything. It's like so impassioned in you. How did you get that way?
I mean, I grew up in a sports family, right? So my whole family went to HBCUs.
There you go.
HBCU Sports Greatness. Grambling is the big one for my dad. My aunt went to Jackson State.
Okay.
And that's what I knew. And then so I grew up in the DMV where sports are king, right? Like, I mean, this is why we're excited that the Commanders are that good. It's a football town. And then, basketball. I remember when the Wizards, weren't doing what they're doing now, when they were good and when they were good. The Eye Center was full.
Right, exactly.
Kids, it was a time. So again, I grew up in Georgia, and it's good to see Georgetown back. I grew up in Georgetown, Kings of the Big East. Maryland, that national championship. So I have always kind of been surrounded by sports, right? By going to Ravens training camp when they used to do it out in Westminster. Like I've always been around that, but I also used to spend some of my summers in Jackson, Mississippi growing up. And if you know down south, look, I was in church my grandmother was Seventh-day Adventist. I was in church on the weekends and doing sports through the weekdays. But I had to come back clean. You had to come back and put the dress on, stockings, all that stuff. But that's that was my reality, right? Because sports, it's down south, it's church and football.
Right.
And that's kind of what I grew up in. So sports have always been around. Love watching the Olympics with my parents. And so I think for me, again, just that platform and that stage, sports always have had. I've always somehow been around that and always wanted to make sure my story was part of that. My journey was part of that. Wow. And that's kind of, I guess, how we got to where we are now.
In this journey of being a broadcaster, right? What was one of the highest highs and the lowest lows that you found out for people who want to be able to get into, especially women, Black women? Why is it so important for you to be able to focus on representing the Black woman in sports? And then what was the biggest challenge that you come across?
Small business owner, coach, author, speaker, consultant, and you want to start your own podcast to build your authority, build more know, like, and trust, connect with new clients, attract new leads. I'm excited to invite you to my free webinar, Podcasting with Power, where I'll share the exact strategy that I've perfected over the past decade to make podcasting simple and easy as 1, 2, 3. This webinar is designed to help you go from a podcast idea to help you to start your podcast without the stress of equipment and technical challenges. And you'll also learn how to share your story, engage with your audience, and attract your ideal client all through your own podcasting platform. Or go to podcastingwithpower.com and get registered, and we'll see you in our free webinar.
Yeah, I think the highest of highs, honestly, now is going 360 and now being a collegiate professor, right? So I've got class in the morning at 8 a.m. So if I don't answer your text late, I got to get me a little bit of rest before I hit that 8 a.m. class.
First of all, you're not going to slide by that. I'm not going to slide by that. Collegiate professor, let's go. And
I don't take that lightly, right? Like I have, each semester, right? These students, their parents, the university, I teach at George Washington University, putting their trust in me. And I think especially now at a time when there's all-time low trust in media, and we're actually learning what journalist means and what it means to be actually ethically trained as a journalist, what it means to, abide by your SPJ code of ethics. The fact that I can teach the next generation how to do things what I think is the right way, how to have, integrity in the work, how to fact check your work, but also how to build an individual brand through your work, build a following. I don't take that lightly. And again, just doing things the right way, bringing people back into, why we need to protect journalism, why these stories matter. So I think that's honestly for me been Life 360, being able to teach at a hometown university, at a university that I didn't go to, but to look into those faces every Tuesday and Thursday who eagerly want to learn. That I think to me has been the highest of highs. And probably one other thing I'll share. Last year, I got to be part of a conversation with the Rose Bowl Institute, and the Rose Bowl game.
Wow,
the granddaddy of them all. And
come on, that's the biggest, right?
To be invited to a panel and then to a separate conversation. It was all about sportsmanship and sports and how we can get back to that. And I looked in the room, and I think I might've been the youngest in the room. It meant a lot. And then you go back, and then to be a Black woman, a lot. So, there's been, honestly, I think why I say in this business so far, there's so many highs, there's so many things that keep telling me, I'm meant to be in this. When the opportunities stop coming, Kelsey Nicole Nelson might not be doing this, but the
I got
opportunities
you.
keep coming. And I feel like they only keep coming because I feel like I'm doing things right. And honestly, trust in him, right? This is God's
yeah. The one thing I love about you is that you don't have a problem saying that you give all things to God, because I'm always focused on that. And
he is why.
Oh my goodness. So it's like a lot of people try not to blur the lines, but there are no blurred lines. It's either him. It's because of him.
Woman. That's
the doors are opening. So how important is spirituality in your life? Well, I grab
it's important. I'm very vocal about that. Again, God-fearing woman, and everything. Without faith, prayer, and action, I don't think anything can happen. And so I think for me, I'm a person that prays, and if it's meant to be, I know God will make it happen. If it's not meant to be, I know he's going to shield me and protect me from it. And I think, in today's world, obviously, we live in a world with multiple denominations and multiple things. But, I tell everybody, every room I walk into as a Black woman, and I walk into a Black woman who trusts God. And that's going to be something that never changes, as long as God blesses me here on this earth, right? That's going to be, that's a factor that will never change. I will always be walking into rooms as that. So I think it's really important, because you talk about earlier the lows. When I do go to my lows, I have to talk to him. And I do have lows. I know social media probably makes it seem like folks don't have lows, but everybody has.
You'll never have a problem. I don't think so.
I'm smiling, but like there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. There's been sleepless nights. There's been opportunities lost. There's been jobs lost, right? But I know it's going to be a bigger plan. But again, trust in him. And honestly, when I'm sad, that's why I usually pop in my earbuds, put on some gospel music, and I just refocus and recenter myself.
What's your favorite song?
Ooh, favorite song, like favorite song just in general, or like favorite gospel?
The one that brings you back. I know.
I'm a Kirk Franklin girl.
Okay, Kirk Franklin. Okay,
I love me some Kirk Franklin. I'm a '90s kid, so I was like prime Kirk Franklin.
I'm glad she's a 90s girl. Thank you very much. Wow.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. It's like Hosanna Forever is coming in my head now, but there's so many, honestly. Lean on Me, like there's so many Kirk Franklin songs. Like literally, I put the playlist on, and there's not a bad Kirk Franklin song. So whenever
do you do your own playlist?
I have a gospel playlist.
Gospel playlist. Okay, gotcha.
Playlist, but Kirk is usually the one, gets me back a beat, gets me back to being myself. And like, again, letting me know, like, okay, know, and I think you should go through emotion. You should feel sad, right? I mean, that's a light. I think that's how you come back stronger. But yeah, I put the gospel playlist on, and things are good.
Yeah. A lot of people think that in this industry that there, it's never a bad moment. Like you said, you have your bad moments. Have you found yourself having to mentor other people that's in this industry that you're even trying to break through?
Oh my gosh. My phone is always I always have young people and I want them to know that they can contact me. I will say sometimes I'm bad at text because I do multiple things, but hit me back. I say, don't afraid to send me that thing back, and I promise I'll get back to you. But yes, I think it's so important. Like one of the roles I have and a lot of stuff I do outside of work is mentorship. I work with a group called Mentor. I'm in multiple mentorship programs because I think that's so important, right? Like to have somebody that you can trust in and help to guide you through, to have somebody that you can ask real questions to.
Real questions.
Any job you've had, think about if you could ask some questions early on and wish new information before you had to learn.
Let me just say, most people base, they kind of treat you like your resume. So you come in the door and they say, well, she has all these credentials. She should come in. I'm not going to help her, right? But to have somebody that you can tap into that says, listen, I get that. And it seems like to me, you have a heart. You want people to win just like you. Am I right about that?
Bradley Bill used to say in DC, everybody eats. And I believe that. I think there's room for all of us at the table. Yeah. I think I think God blesses you abundantly when you are more, when you're more open and when you're not afraid to help somebody. It appalls me that people think, only they can win. Believe me, I have a competitive mindset. That's why I said my work ethic is I always say,
I think I can you. If you can't take my spot.
Look, I'm a competitive person, but that does not mean I'm not going to help, right? And
that's true.
Because competitiveness is what keeps me going, right? It's what keeps my energy high because I want to be better. But it's not because I'm trying to be better than you. I'm trying to be better than myself. I'm trying to be better than I was yesterday. That's kind of what keeps me going, right? Because I'm focused. I'm laser focused on what I'm doing. But again, you have to it's the thing I live by is lift as you climb. I don't want to get up that mountain alone. I want to be, because if I get to the top and no one else is there with me, what's the celebration in that, right?
You
When I
get
get to top of that mountain,
then come on.
I want to be surrounded. I want that rope to go back down. I want people to be
Right.
climbing up and getting there with me. So I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing. And,
Yeah.
again, we stand on the shoulders of giants, to whom much is given, much is required. And so I think
Mhm.
it's so important, again, for all of us to look back, lift up, and guide that next generation more than ever now. Because, again, there's so many negative distractions. There's so much you go through in life too, that to have somebody help you. And I think, again, especially as a Black woman, and, I have the Malcolm X quote in my head every day: the most unprotected, disrespected person in America is the Black woman. That Black woman needs some love. She needs care. And so for me, it's very important to be able to be a beacon of light, hopefully, and provide that back. So, sometimes when I'm at games, I have people, oh my God, Kelsey, I saw you just do this. Like, how do I get tips and stuff? And I'm responding back. Again, this information is not just for me to keep in my head. Share it. I need to spread it, because that's why I create my legacy that I want to leave on this earth.
You already talked about legacy, and I believe that you're just getting started. I honestly believe you're just getting started. And speaking of, powerful Black women, I just knew that, I really don't do politics, but I just knew that if Kamala would have won, I would have saw you right up in there having her on your podcast. I was.
Well, she is my soror. I mean, and happy Founders Day, soror. Kamala Harris.
Give her a shout, like, come on over.
I got the pink and green on today. You're right. Doing a little something on January 15th.
There you go.
It would have been amazing to see. And I think there's so much power in representation and inclusion and diversity. And to have a Black woman at the highest level, that does something. So, and obviously I think for me, like it meant so much. And I think I said in one of my acceptance speech for my awards last year, like I live in DC, and to see a Black woman at the White House, not too far from me, like that does something. But I think the best thing about Kamala Harris's story is it's not done yet.
No.
It's not done yet. And I think that's what's so exciting. And that's the power of Black women. You can never write us off. You can never count us out. We're going to come back stronger. And that's why I'm excited to see, what happens next. But I'm also glad that she had time to, and it's something I'm bad at, but she had time to actually rest. And I think it's Black women, so much on our shoulders, and there's always so much we're carrying. Like, I don't sometimes know what rest is. Like, I'm always just moving, I'm always going, always have to be doing something. And I think we also have to give ourselves grace and space. And I think it can be hard, again, in a competitive world where we're not always welcome and we're not always liked. So, I wish my sister the best. And I'm just excited. I know there's some things up her sleeves, and I think it's going to surprise a lot of folks. But by the way, also prayers to her home state of California, and prayers to
absolutely. Yes, prayers for them. Absolutely. Do you know anybody in California?
We all do, right? Like, it's Los Angeles, and it's been honestly been heartbreaking. Like, I was like, we all feel so helpless, right? Like, you're here, and like, yes, you can donate and you can give, but like, you want them to have it right now, right?
Right.
You want them to be home, and it's been honestly, that's one of the hardest things. It's helpless, but again, just prayers, love, light, everything to Los Angeles. I think Los Angeles is at the top of all of our minds.
Absolutely. Every single day. And I'm always, getting my audience to talk about, just stop thinking about yourself all the time. You have to think about others. And because we tend to think about, it's not over here. It can happen to anybody. So I'm glad you said that. We have to always be definitely looking out for them. Yeah, so talk to me about KNN, your podcast. I saw you interview just recently Sugar Ray Leonard's son.
Yeah,
experience.
I did, and he's amazing. Ray Leonard Jr. is incredible. I got to interview Sugar Ray years ago, and he was incredible, right? We got that DMV connect going on.
I see. That's good.
The DMV is a powerful place.
It's powerful. Let me ask you this: do you ever see yourself leaving DMV?
Everybody always asks me that, and for me, it's meant a lot to be able to grow in my hometown, because everyone my whole life told me, like, you can't stay in your hometown. You got to go and you got to leave. But I always told myself, why would I leave the most powerful city in the world? It doesn't make sense. So I think the DMV is such a special place, again, because so much happens here. Again, we're the nation's capital. Like, so growing up here, like, it means something. It does something. And I love the area here, right? I've coined the phrase, the DMV breeds ballers. Like, I've seen the talent here. I've got to be part of that talent pipeline. So I will say, I will always have a base here. I will never fully leave the DMV. I will always have a base here. But if an opportunity comes, I got to go where the opportunity opportunity is. But I will always have some type of base here because the DMV means that much to me.
Absolutely. Well, plus you can't get the Washington. Here's how old I'm going. I was Gracie Redskins. The Washington Generals. The Washington. You can't get that out of your heart at all, right?
Well, it's funny. So I'm a Maryland girl. Folks assume I'm from DC because I do DC. So I'm actually a Ravens fan. I'm a Maryland.
Really?
Crab cakes and football. Crab cakes and football. That's what Maryland does. Don't forget that. But I've worked in the DC market, and DC is a weird place. So I work in the DC market, though I'm from Maryland, but DC is the bigger market. And technically where I live is closer to DC than Baltimore. I know you have to be here to understand it. But yeah, I'm from Maryland. So born and bred, went to University of Maryland, proud Terp, proud Ravens fan, but I cover more of the Commanders. I think that's why, and people assume, but because I work for the team, I love the fans. I have inherited that team as well. And so absolutely love what the Commanders are doing and love the team, but make no mistake about it. Kelsey, Nicole Nelson, reps and bleeds.
She cleared that up. She cleared it up, y'all.
But always love DC. Again, always love DC and what DC has meant for me, what DC has done for me in my career. And, I know the DC natives won't let me say I'm from DC, but I like to think I'm as close as it gets but that's why we say we're from the DMV area.
Absolutely.
We have love for them all.
So what does Kelsey Nelson do when she's not running at 100 miles an hour? What do you do to bring it down? Is there any hobbies, any things that you do?
I love, when I can, this is something I want to get back into. I love live music. I'm a music person. I can't sing for my life. My sister got the musical talent.
Your sister? Yeah, she's a
my sister can pipe.
I saw that.
I can talk. She can pipe.
That's good.
I love to just go out to music, concerts, comedy shows if I can. I love to laugh. If you can't tell her, I love to smile, love to laugh. Yeah. So absolutely love doing stuff like that. But honestly now, I just having my peace. So I'm trying to catch up on some movies and Netflix shows and all that stuff that I've just been way too behind on. That's kind of been, I think, where I found especially because it's cold now. That's what my voice is now. But that's what I like to do. I think just be out, some movies, concerts, comedy shows. And when I have the time, which is rare, but when I do have that time, it's nice to be able to do that.
How do you manage everything? How do you manage your time? Just walk me through a typical KNN day.
If you're an entrepreneur, small business owner, coach, author, speaker, consultant, and you want to start your own podcast to build your authority, build more know, like, and trust, connect with new clients, attract new leads, I'm excited to invite you to my free webinar, Podcasting with Power, where I'll share the exact strategy that I've perfected over the past decade to make podcasting simple and easy as 1, 2, 3. This webinar is designed to help you go from a podcast idea to help you to start your podcast without the stress of equipment and technical challenges. And you'll also learn how to share your story, engage with your audience, and attract your ideal client all through your own podcasting platform. Or go to podcastingwithpower.com and get registered, and we'll see you in our free webinar.
Nothing is typical. And I don't think people realize a lot of the stuff that I do, I get reached out to last minute for a lot of stuff.
Wow.
So my day is always shifting and changing. But I will say time management has been something. Again, remember I told you I always had jobs.
Yes.
Always, never singular, always plural. Yes.
Always plural.
I have been doing this for a long time. So meaning I think my body knows, I know. Like I said, time management has been something I've always had to be good at. Because that's been my norm. So I always tell people chaos has been my norm. I know it sounds crazy. But having a crazy life has kind of just been my thing, and I've gotten used to it. But I think the biggest thing, again, is just finding what works for you. So for me, if you're not, I always tell people, send me a calendar invite. It needs to be in my phone, because if you're not in my phone, it might not happen.
Forget it. And let me just say this. I appreciate you for taking the time out to be on the show. We're celebrating 10 years. And
congratulations. That's huge.
Can you believe that? I'm wow.
Decade, it means something.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's in the beginning, I didn't think none of that. It was just something cool to do. And to see where podcast is going, I'm like, Kelsey, is there anybody that doesn't have a podcast that you know that are in that?
It seems like everybody does now, but I will say to have longevity, because I also saw people who hit me up oh, I want to start a podcast, and a couple of years later, I'm like, what happened to the podcast? Let's do something. It wasn't doing what I need to be doing.
Episode 3.
So like there is something in like pushing through like
Yeah.
when I started listening with KNN, it was again to give myself a voice at the table when nobody else was offering a seat, and to now be able to be 7 years in, have a budding internship program, have graduates from that program, have had top guests. I just had the DC police chief on. Like it means something in the community. I'm getting credentials for folks who want to come work with me to be able to go cover top events. Like the fact that the brand is recognized. And now, like I said, it's not just me. It's a whole bunch of people behind it. I'm so thankful. I just graduated internship class. Like I am so thankful for everyone that has touched my brand in some way, shape, or form. And at the podcast, like Nipsey Hussle used to say, the marathon continues. It continues. Listening with KNN, and it's been fun. It's been a journey, but again, now it's been more exciting, I think, for me to expand opportunities for others. Through my brand again, and just telling the stories that need to be told.
I think I just say this. I want to say this right now. Thank you, God, for just dropping this in my spirit. KNN is going to be a worldwide brand.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Worldwide brand, and it's not going to be. I don't like to do 5 years. Things are moving. AI is moving too fast. KNN.
It is
too fast. So in the next 2 years, where do you see yourself as far as the brand?
Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, honestly, that's what keeps me up at night. Because I mean, in my mind, I want to be international. I've had the opportunity to talk in Canada, talk in Dubai on shows, but what you just said, I want to be a household name, and I don't want people to just know me for sports. I want them to know me for my nonprofit work, for the foundation, my KNN Foundation I'm about to launch, my Books Breaking Borders program that we're doing. Helping literacy rates. I want them to know that. My professor work, I launched the sports writing class at the university. Wow. Who knows in 2 years? I wouldn't mind being over a department and launching a whole program, right? Like and touching more students. Like there's so many different things. But I think for me in 2 years, just know it's going to be up and up. There's going to be an improvement, and I'm going to be doing much more than I am today. That's for me the biggest thing. My New Year's resolutions is always about growth. How can I do more than I did last year? How do I get better? So I think for me, I just look to see me more nationally and internationally on screens, and look to see not just on TV, but I'm talking about hosting, talking keynote at conferences. Like I want to be doing all that.
I want to ask this because you're a great leader. You've mentioned leadership, and I have. I took but for a couple of years, I kind of paused on the podcast because I needed to work on my leadership, personal growth, communication, right?
Understand.
And so I joined a certification program with John Maxwell, and I got certified, and I teach, and I found out that leadership of self is so important.
Facts.
More though than the leadership of others, because I believe you can't lead anybody else unless you can lead yourself first. So what does leadership mean to you?
Leadership is ever evolving, I think, to me. I think leadership is being courageous. It's being able to make the tough decisions when no one else wants to. Being a leader, I think, is being vulnerable. I think it's being transparent. And I think it's being true to you. That's what you just said. I don't think you can be a leader until you know yourself. Like, I think for me, again, I was pushed in early. And I also think being a leader means other people can see things about you that you sometimes don't know about yourself when you're first getting into it. Like, I think, I was always like, people like, I've always had a leadership position in every group I've been in. I was always the one, for the group project, like delegating.
Was it by default?
Yes and no. Like, I'm one of those people, like, we're not just gonna sit around looking at each other crazily. Like, we're gonna do something. Like, we gonna, and then that competitive spirit, like, we're not about to lose either. Like, we gotta do something.
Right.
So, I think yes and no by default. Because I'm also able to see another leader, like, I'm like, okay, we can work together. Like, we can make this through. But I think just knowing your strengths early. But again, I think people saw things in me before I saw them in myself. Like, I was a counselor in training early. I was always like a helper or aide to teachers. I was in a combination class in school. I was helping the other students. Like, I just kind of feel like I've always been. So I think for me, like, leadership, it's always been there. Honestly, it's all I've known. And honestly, it goes back to my parents, I think. Like, my dad was always like the NAACP reps at my school. He's like the one black dad in the PTA meetings, but like, and making sure like, so like, I've seen it, and I think that's kind of what that became my norm. So I honestly think like leadership has always been there. But again, I think it's just, you have to be unafraid to be a leader, because not everything you do or say is going to be liked and loved by everyone. But that's what makes you in that position, and not somebody else in that position, because not everybody can deal with that.
Yeah. And since you're a communications queen, how important is it as a leader that your communication be clear?
Oh my gosh. Like, this is why I love that I work with all types of people on many different levels, right? I work with students, I work with interns, I work with my colleagues. And I think for me, like, just being the best communicator I can be has been so important. You know, I'm the one that does the pleasantries and the emails. You know, I start with the pleasantries at the top, you know, like, because you're human, you deserve that. Then I'll get to like the work, right?
Yep.
Happy. I always make sure and like, let me know if I can, you know, clarify anything. If you have any questions, you know, I'm open. So I think being always available, but I think also knowing that your communication style may change. And I think the biggest thing to be a great communicator, you have to know your audience, who you're talking to, right? Like when I go talk at career days, I know the school, I know the students out there. My message is sometimes different, right? I think that's the biggest thing, knowing your audience and knowing how you can parlay your message to connect with that audience. So how can you use, like, I'm a word person, you know, words matter. What words are going to be right? What emotions, what do I want to convey? What do I want to evoke? What do I want people to feel? What are the goals, right? So I think I'm a person that kind of sets all that up. But again, knowing your audience, I think, is the true key to being successful at any communications message.
Tell us one thing about Kelsey Nelson that we don't know, that I haven't figured out. Oh
my gosh, I'm so open. You know, never gets. I'm like, I feel like my life is like on full display. Because again, I try to be transparent. Maybe this is actually what I want to get back into. So I used to be like the biggest poet person. Like, would write poetry. I love poetry.
Come on,
something I have not had a chance to do is actually like sit down and like write poetry and go perform. I'm a spoken word person. Like I think that's something that I want to get back into this year. And gotta find time. Is I miss poetry. I hope it misses me, but I miss poetry.
Wow, that is so good. You got anything? You want to spit something for us real quick?
Oh, you're putting me. I told you I'm rusty because I haven't done it in a long time. But like one of these nights, I'm going to like really sit. And honestly, it came to me after like so many emotions. Like the whole like election. How do
you respond to that? I know,
but I felt like that's when I wanted to write. Like, for me, I'm one of those people. Like I probably maybe I can't sing, but maybe I could even be a songwriter because I know what emotions and I know how to evoke.
Got that? Okay.
So I think for me, it's like that's what I just immediately just kind of wanted to write because there's sometimes there's things that like it can't be fully expressed.
That's true.
But like when you write it out, like it's the most beautiful thing. So hopefully this year I'll get some time to get back, you know, to my roots. I'm a writer by trade.
Small business owner, coach, author, speaker, consultant, and you want to start your own podcast to build your authority, build more know, like, and trust, connect with new clients, attract new leads. I'm excited to invite you to my free webinar, Podcasting with Power, where I'll share the exact strategy that I've perfected over the past decade to make podcasting simple and easy as 1, 2, 3. This webinar is designed to help you go from a podcast idea to help you to start your podcast without the stress of equipment and technical challenges. And you'll also learn how to share your story, engage with your audience, and attract your ideal client all through your own podcasting platform. Or go to podcastingwithpower.com and get registered, and we'll see you in our free webinar.
Wow. If I can get back to like doing some poetry, I think I'm gonna be a happy person.
I'm looking forward to that and the poetry book. I'm putting it out there right now.
People keep speaking this book, so I think a book is gonna be on the horizon too. Everyone keeps saying, so you gotta have on. That will probably be on the horizon too, because there's a lot I could share.
Oh my goodness. So since you have emotional intelligence, how important is it for people to get to know themselves when they look in the mirror so that they know how to be able to react? And how important is it to know who you are?
Oh, it's so important. I think for me, one of the best things I've been had a chance to do is travel. And when you get to travel, and this is why I love my opportunities that come through sport, like you meet people and you don't know sometimes how you're going to react in situations until you're there, right? It's not like when we watch scary movies and you're like, oh, I would have done, you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know. Right? Like you just don't, right? But I think for me, and it's kind of going behind, like, and I try to push that with my brand, like A&N is a part of me. It's part of my brand and it encapsulates all of me. But what people see on social is mostly my career brand part of it, right? And I'm
so much more to what you're saying.
Exactly, right? But I do want people to see that, right? I also know, like, but I think for me, like, when you get comfortable with yourself, he was like, why are you so happy? Why are you smiling? Because I know who I am. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? I know what ticks me. I know that as I get older, you know, I think one of the biggest things I've done, like I said, is like people in my circle. Like I have like just no negativity right now around me. And it's been one of the best like one of the best things. I think, I've had to learn, like, I can't have negative people. I can't, because I realize I can't have people drain me. I'm an energy person. I can't have anybody draining me.
Because they will.
They will. And
They
I had to let
will.
go. I think something I had to learn about myself is I can't care as much about the others in terms of if it's not benefiting, my personal health, my mental health.
Yes.
And so I had to, and that's for anybody's. I think that's one of the biggest things. But I think once you get to know you, and it takes time, it also takes time, right? Like, because I think life is a journey. And honestly, I'm still learning things about myself. I put on a post the other day. I got close to a dog. That's something I thought I would never do.
I saw that on the show.
I'm not a pet person. But I got close to a pet.
I saw that. Did you pet him or?
I got close.
I didn't say all that. I just said I
baby steps. People keep telling me, like, you want to baby steps,
wow,
right? I'm knowing myself. I need baby steps.
I applaud you.
I didn't grow up with a pet, right? and how people look at them is different than how I look at them, right?
No doubt.
I think that's what's, and even like I said, being a professor was never in the cards, right? But there's a quality I have where going with your point, I'm able to lead, and people say able to lead, and so many opportunities have come. So I think for me, like, again, just knowing what your pressure points and pains are, but knowing also what brings you highs and joys. Once you know that, and you're happy with where you are. And then I also think I have accepted that life is a journey. I think when I was younger, I just wanted the destination. I just wanted to do this. And I didn't care about, more so the journey, because I wanted to get there and I needed to get there. Now I'm appreciating every step along the way. And I think it's been an amazing, like, just testimony into who I am. And I think I've also been more vulnerable, and, like, again, just letting people kind of see into, that's why I was like, what have I not shared? I'm like, I'm so open with stuff.
Right.
I've definitely tried to do that as well. So I feel like I know me. I know the real K&N, beyond the brand, beyond the work, into who I truly am.
So let me ask this, because that's so important. You talk about mental health, and I'm gonna wrap on this. As far as this generation, your generation, how have you seen where mental health has been a hindrance, or it has been has it been more of an important to be able to really tap into your mental health, and how important it is to have it?
Yeah, like, I think for me, I love that, like, we're normalizing therapy, and we're normalizing, people just talking to someone. I'll be completely honest, I'm not at that point in my journey yet. Like, for me, I tried the therapy route. Like, it's so weird for me to, like, just sit and, like, talk to somebody, right, that, like, I don't fully know.
But you don't know.
I don't get therapy. For me, my therapy, again, is like giving myself time. I realize because I'm so high energy, I'm so high paced, my therapy, my mental health is giving myself away time, which means, like, no phone. You can't email me. I'm not checking my emails during that time. Like, I have to cut off. That's kind of, like, for me, again, everyone's is going to be different. Everyone's is going to be different. I cut off. And again, I get to reconnect with me. Sometimes I go for a walk. I listen to birds chirp. I'm a suburban girl. I need my birds. I need my chipmunks. Long as it's not a rat, I'm good. Right? Just I don't do rodents and stuff. I don't do the harm.
Right.
None of that. I have my birds and my chipmunks and all that, like, all that, all those suburban type of things. It's like crickets, but it's one of those things that I find me, and again, I think so. I think when it comes to, but also I think I love that we're normalizing mental health. I've been on so many. I'm a part of, like, a lot of groups of Black women where we're able to actually talk on calls and actually talk about like what's bothering us, like what did you encounter in work today? How did you restrain yourself? And I love that we're open about that, because I think before we were in silos and feeling like we were the only ones dealing with it. Where now it's like an open conversation, and people are open and vulnerable to that. So I think that's been a beautiful thing, but I think that's what it is. I think people are finding, like, what therapy works for them, and being able to carry that through. But also the biggest thing, we're having a conversation, Fred. Like, this used to be, especially in the Black community, this used to be a thing like you just wouldn't talk about. Like, you better be fine. Like, I ain't got no time for that.
I ain't got time for that. Right.
But now it's like, oh, okay, no, something's happening. Like, and we need to have that talk. So I think I appreciate that. I think we still have a ways to go. But again, I'm just thankful that hopefully my millennial folks, because I know sometimes we get a bad rep.
Shout out to the millennials, okay? I'm the generation after, so shout out to the millennials.
90s, I don't care what nobody says. 90s was the best generation. We set a bar, like, because we knew what it was to, like, have, like, track phones and stuff. I know. But we also appreciate the cell phone. But we also, like, knew what it was, like, be in class, like, have to roll the TV in. And
the old school TV with the big remote control.
I think we're the last generation that like knew old school, but
That's
also
right.
like knows the new school.
There was no swiping on iPads, none of that kind of thing. You rolled it in.
It was look, I remember teacher
man.
had to go, I'll be right back, students. I gotta go get the TV. You know, I remember those days. You know, so I
Okay.
appreciate it.
I feel better. I feel so much better. I love too far off. That's good. That is so amazing. So Kelsey, I just appreciate I want to wrap up here. What is one book that you've read that I need to read?
Gosh, you put me on the spot because it's so funny because I just moved to a new place and I have so many books. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to read this. What's the AJ Brown book that everyone's talking about that he just had at the game?
AJ Brown. So I gotta look that up. I'm glad you said that. Shout out to AJ Brown. Wow.
Marketing.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's important. Yeah, definitely.
No, that's not the name of the book. I was saying he did smart marketing. I'm gonna look it up.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
It's supposed to be like motivational. Inner excellence, I think. Inner excellence.
Ooh, inner excellence.
I actually really like that title too.
Yeah, it's like
to train your mind for extraordinary performance in the best possible life.
Say that one more time. I want to hear that again.
Inner excellence, train your mind for extraordinary performance and the best possible life.
That I definitely got to get that. I'm gonna have to give that out on the show. I'm so excited to have had Kelsey Nicole Nelson on my show after 10 years, y'all. Kelsey, please don't wait 10 years to come back.
I'm gonna be old then, sister. I gotta come back sooner.
We gotta give.
Hopefully, I got those black jeans where I look the same when I come back on in 10 years.
Exactly. Broadcaster, professional radio host Kelsey Nelson, award-winning journalist and communication specialist, and most importantly, my friend. I feel like I'm your uncle from back in the day or something like that. So
we're family. We're family.
Thank you so much. Make sure y'all check out Kelsey Nicole Nelson's podcast. What's the name of your podcast?
Listen In with KNN. You can go to listeninwithknn.com, and I promise you, I got some fire guests coming. You are not going to want to miss it.
And how can people get a hold of you? What's your website?
Yep, KelseyNicoleNelson.com. It's in the name. Easiest way to reach me. And then on social, just the real K Nelson, or Facebook, LinkedIn, just Kelsey Nicole Nelson. And that hit a girl up. I love meeting new people. That's been one of the best parts, I think, about social media, Fred, is that you just get to meet and connect with. Like, I can't tell. So many people that I absolutely adore and love. They're on social media.
You remember the name of these people that all about you meeting?
I have to look. I was a journalist. I have to.
You have
look.
to.
I do color commentating, y'all, for a woman's back. Like, I know names, pronunciations, states, hometowns.
That's right. The one thing I learned in the book, I read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. The most beautiful sound of a person is the sound of their own name.
Ooh, that's beautiful. Yeah. That's so funny you said that, because my parents, and I tell people were like, how do you can? I'm like, my parents gave me the name. I just put it together. I wanted to be like Oprah. I was going to go by 3 letters. Her Oprah Winfrey Network, KNN. You know, I'm thankful for and even though obviously when I was born, they probably didn't know. But funny story, my mom really didn't want my name. My family's Southern, so she was really pushing for my name to be Kaylana Ray. I guess I still could have been KNN. No, because it wasn't Ray.
How she spelled it? How was she going to spell that one?
That's a good question. I never asked that. I just know because down south you have your first name is like a first and a middle name together. Yeah. So Ray, but I'm glad she said when they said Kelsey, I made a noise. So shout out to baby Kelsey, who's like, give me that Kelsey, give me that simple, pretty,
I will take that
Scandinavian name.
Good day. I appreciate you so much, my friend. And listen, much success to you. And the KNN brand will be bigger than Oprah. I'm putting it out there.
Look. People I just ask people to keep supporting me. I'm so thankful. The love I get, like I can't thank people enough. Like I'm still that just girl from Georgetown that I'm just thankful. So I love you all so much, Fred. I adore you. Your wife, please send her all the love and well wishes. And again, just thank you for sharing your platform with me. Thank you so much. And thank you for being part of the Studio 22 Live podcast. And KNN, I'm going to do something that I always do. I'm going to pray. Father God, just thank you for the opportunity to be here with Kelsey Nicole Nelson, my friend. I appreciate you for all that you have done. And also thank you, God, for all that you're going to do. We're just grateful, and keep her mind and her health and everything strong. Let doors of opportunities open up for her that no other man can close. We just thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. And I thank you again. Get back to work. And here's a tip. Can you get some rest, please? You'll be proud of me though. It's gonna make me pay for tonight, but I slept 8 hours, so I went, this is why doctors say you should. Whoa. I feel different today, but I'm gonna have to be up tonight though, because it put me behind. Okay, I got you right. I know a lot of people a lot of stuff. Have a great day. Everyone. Talk to you.
Found themselves themselves down by 1. Butler thinks the key to winning the game today in a 10-point win last week in Philadelphia.
Manager, Mr. David Griffin. David, how are you tonight?
And I look forward to covering all the teams.
Hey everyone, it's Kelsey Nicole Nelson.
If you're an entrepreneur, small business owner, coach, author, speaker, consultant, and you want to start your own podcast to build your authority, build more know, like, and trust, connect with new clients, attract new leads, I'm excited to invite you to my free webinar, Podcasting with Power, where I'll share the exact strategy that I've perfected over the past decade to make podcasting simple and easy as 1, 2, 3. This webinar is designed to help you go from a podcast idea to help you to start your podcast without the stress of equipment and technical challenges. And you'll also learn how to share your story, engage with your audience, and attract your ideal client all through your own podcasting platform. Or go to podcastingwithpower.com and get registered, and we'll see you in our free webinar.
Studio 22 Live.